They just counted 30 community members now.
Good evening, everyone. We'd like to get started. I'll call to order this meeting of the October 25th, 2017 Sub-Operations Committee of the Guilford Board of Education. So welcome to the meeting, and we have just one item on our agenda, and that is to listen to all of you. We're at the beginning of our budget process, although the budget process never really stops. But this is one of the first formal steps we take, and before things are put down on paper, we simply want to listen to what's important to the community. So please feel free to come up and sort of regulate yourselves. Come on up to the podium, and we'd like you to start by stating your name and address for the record, and then let us know what's on your mind.
Okay, if I start, and I can pick up the swimmer.
Good.
Hi, John Mayo, 199 Village Pond Road in Guilford. And really, I'm here for one reason and one reason only, to do something that our society doesn't do very often, and it's just say thank you to all these people who are sitting in this room tonight. Because I was at this meeting a year ago during this process, and we were a bunch of swim parents trying to get a swim team at Guilford High School. And it worked. Dr. Freeman listened, Mr. Macenti listened, Mr. Jarvis listened. Dr. Freeman said to us, you get 10 girls who want to come up to the swim team, and we will give you $6,000 for a coach. And $6,000 is not that much, as we all know, in our budget. But it's the stipend for the coach, and that's what the money was. We had 23 girls show up to that first meeting. Kind of blew us out of the water. It was great to see them come through. 20 of those girls continue to swim today. They had their senior meet last night with only one senior. That's a girl named Anna Regal, who many of you would consider to be a unified swimmer, unified sports athlete. She's a swimmer. She's beating her own time. She broke 9 minutes the other day in the 500 freestyle, and it's awesome. I brought the newspaper article, smiling faces. All these kids are swimming. My daughter was all-state last year as a freshman, not swimming for Guilford. She swam for Brantford on what was known as a one-man band. And now she has her own teammates, and she rides the bus, and they sing these songs, and they're happy, and they're having a great time. She's able to swim relay events that she didn't get a chance to do last year. She's hoping to continue on with her swimming in college, and this is going to give her the opportunity to do so. And so really, I'm just here to say thank you. There is a financial side to everything. And I'd be lying to you if I didn't say we would like to have a little bit more. And I would, simply, there's $6,000 for the coaching. We're paying approximately $5,000 to $6,000 for bus transportation because we have to leave Guilford to go to Brantford to swim in the pool. And the requirement from the Board of Ed is just to take the bus to an out of town venue. Even though our practices are in Brantford, we have to take the bus there, and we pay for that. I left a meeting tonight at 7 o'clock of about 20 swim parents talking about fundraising tonight. So we are doing what we can do. But I am here to just advocate for a little bit more. If you could find some time to put maybe the transportation money into the budget. If you could find some extra that's going to come through. We know already there's going to be approximately 10 more swimmers coming as 8th graders for next year. 7 of them are full-time swimmers, year-round swimmers with the SYS program, the Stingray program in Brantford. So we have the girls who are coming. That would put us, let's say, between 25 and 30 swimmers for next year, and it's going to continue to grow. So you asked me if you build it, will they come? Yes, they're going to continue to come. And we think this program's in great shape. We hope it's going to continue to grow. But again, I'm just here to say thank you, and if there is some extra money that can be found in our budget for next year, and we know it's at the very beginning stages of where we are tonight, but that's why I'm here, and that's why I made an effort to come out tonight, because this process worked, and it was great, and these girls are having a great time. The boys team, by the way, I'd like to update the board on that. It looks like it's going to be a co-op again, simply because Brantford's numbers are way down. And Brantford, I believe, came to Mr. Jarvis and you, Dr. Freeman, and talked a little bit about maybe continuing that as a co-op. So that money there, we need to discuss. There was a stipend allowed in the budget for that. That money, we'll see how that gets divvied up as well. But if maybe it's a rob Peter to pay Paul situation for us, if we take the boys' money from next year, that would double the money and would take the transportation side of that out of it for us. But a lot of people here. I'm going to move on. We'll go pick up my swimmer and from practice, and we'll go from there. But again, thank you very much, and have a great night.
before you leave,
Yeah.
my name is Irene Cottrill. I'm at 9 Garrison Drive. I would like to support what you asked for. My children are in 2nd and 4th grade. They both swim, and when they get to high school, I would love it if they continue to swim.
That's awesome, thank you.
Thank you. And I'm here also for a different reason. So, as I said, I have 2 daughters in the Guilford district, and we moved here for this, for the Guilford schools. I'm here as a proponent of the Start School Later initiative. Sorry, it's only 2 copies. I don't want to kill the trees.
It's already been emailed to everybody on the board.
Okay, thank you so much, Bill. I would like to thank the board and the community for their hard work and support on our issue. We have several updates since the last Board of Ed meeting. We'd like to update the board and the community that the Richfield Board of Ed just approved the later start time for high school students, with the school starting at 8:30 in the morning, in line with the research surrounding the sleep cycle of adolescents. They're projecting a $90,000 savings. As you know, Richfield has a great athletics program, and they're able to accommodate this change. At the request of Board of Ed, we also gathered information with regard to Newtown's implementation of later school start in their district. This information was forwarded to the Board of Ed to brief the public. The Newtown established a task force that met almost weekly for 8 months. And they discussed up to 8 different scenarios of altering the school schedule and the bus routes. Newtown's a large town. It's 20% bigger than Guilford, 30% more student population, and they have had to also deal with the private school busing for private school. They had settled on an 8 a.m. start, 2:30 p.m. stop for high school. They were able to do this as a budget-neutral issue, and they were able to implement it this academic year. I'm also happy to report that a parent task force was established surrounding the Start School Later issue. We have met with some of the parents, the PTO, and the community individuals to discuss the issue in order to plan around the community. For example, through these meetings with parents and kids, we learned that school doesn't start at 7:25 in the morning. The kids who take the bus get there at 6:50 in the morning. So that is really, really early, much earlier than any of us, or most of us, have to get to work. As we have communicated previously, we would like to explore the 8 a.m. start, 2:30 p.m. stop. We believe this might be close to a budget-neutral issue with the reorganization of the buses. Speaking with some high school students and parents, it became evident that this start-stop would not interfere with daily practice for sports, nor with majority of away games. On a more positive note, it's my pleasure to report that task force is being established between the community, the Board of Ed, and administration in the school. We're also very excited to hear that the state budget is likely to include monies to Guilford. I know we have a lot of work ahead of us in order to respect the needs of high school students, which includes sleep, academics, and sports, and the needs of elementary students whose parents don't want to delay their day. I'm confident that working as a community, we can achieve these important goals and provide optimal learning environment and mental health environment for all of our students. It is thus our request that the Board of Ed prioritizes the Start Later School initiative for this coming 2018-19 budget year. Thank you very much for your time.
My name is Stacy Michael. I live at 110 Pine Grove Road, although I'm reading a statement from 22 families and some people who are here tonight. You guys want to raise your hand so that we don't all come up? I'm just going to read a joint statement. I'm here this evening representing a group of concerned parents from Calvin Leeds 3rd grade. As we discussed at last month's Board of Ed meeting, our children's classes are the biggest in the district. At 23 and 24 students per class, they are also at the limit of the board's recommended class size. Tonight, we urge you to remember these 47 students as you put next year's budget together. Our hope is to retain all 3 4th grade teachers currently at LEAD, splitting our 2 overcrowded classes into 3 of a more manageable size. Since last month's meeting, our concerns about these classes have only grown, despite the best efforts of our wonderful teachers and LEAD staff. We understand the challenges present in any budget cycle. However, we hope that you will prioritize improving the classroom environment and day-to-day instruction for these students. Thank you.
Thank
I have a copy.
Good evening. My name is Amy Tansey. I have 3 children that go to Guilford Public Schools, and I am in support of the starting school later for Guilford High School. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Colin Romero. I am a freshman at the Guilford High School, and I am in support of later school start times. And if you can see my shirt, I am an athlete for the Guilford soccer, for the high school team. Thank you very much.
I'm nervous just talking in front of people, but I actually sent you an email, but I just wanted to let everybody else understand I'm in full support of full-time art in the Guilford Public Schools. Art has transformed my own life, which is why I feel strongly about providing the creative outlet for students within the public schools. In high school, I doubted myself at times. Academically, I was just a mediocre student. However, art was my strength. I had 2 amazing art teachers that stood behind me and pushed me to explore different mediums and create art that I never knew I could. I proudly stood at art shows and even received art awards. I may not have been great at math and reading, but art was my strength. My confidence grew through the arts, and I will forever be grateful for the opportunity to express my creativity through painting and drawing. I'm so nervous. I'm an art student of young artists, a special education teacher, and a unified arts instructor. I have seen imaginations grow, behaviors decreased, creativity ignited, and witnessed the sparkles in the eyes of the students like myself. In my opinion, we have a wonderful school district, but I'm fearful because I see less and less chances for our students to be creative. My own son loves the arts. We even turned our living room into an art studio. He, too, finds his strength within his comic art. Each character he designs is a piece of himself. Not only is he drawing each character, but he's writing stories, he's making connections, and expressing himself in a way that might not otherwise be released. These are all things we work on in the public schools. We have students who find their strengths in writing, reading, and math. What happens to the students like myself and my son that need art to build their confidence and strengthen their academics? As a special education teacher, I witnessed the joy of art through so many students. I had one particular student who was shy, didn't participate in class, and was fearful of expressing herself because socializing was difficult for her. Writing was also not her strength. However, her artwork was tremendous. Her peers would always look at her work and be amazed at what they saw. In those moments, she beamed like you had never seen her before. She even gave me an original drawing to say thank you for helping her at the end of the year. I immediately framed it and placed it in my classroom for all my students to see. She, too, had been given the gift of art. Art gave this particular student the strength to overcome her abilities in academics and in life. Where would this particular student be without the ability to express herself through drawings? Some of the greatest tools as a special educator to help with emotional students is a box of crayons and a pad of paper. Just handing an emotional child a crayon and giving them the ability to draw in a quiet space is extremely therapeutic. Oftentimes, their problems will be illustrated through their work, or they may choose to create happy images that boost their moods. Either way, it's these simple tools that oftentimes avoided a much larger, scarier situation for the student as well as the educator. Lastly, as a unified arts instructor, I have witnessed the friendships and the laughter that are the result of art. Offering the students a safe place to be creative is a gift that money cannot buy. Every piece of art is just as unique as my students and just as beautiful as well. Art may not be your strength, but it is for others. We have so many students out there that have not even identified their strengths as artists. We need more art in the Guilford Public Schools. We need more opportunities for students to explore, be unique, and be expressive. At Guilford Lakes, Mrs. Galehouse is an incredible art teacher. She does the best that she can, splitting her time between schools. However, I can imagine it's hard for her to indulge in the arts with her students as much as she wants to if she is splitting her time. My son looks forward to the one day that he has with her, but he wishes he had more time. We need more teachers, and the students need more art. If we built more murals, offer more time for students to explore, and challenge more little minds with the power of art, I think we can see less behaviors and more creators, both artistically and academically. In conclusion, here are some statistics that may help strengthen your thoughts on the need for full-time art in our public schools. Students who study art are 4 times more likely to be recognized for academic achievement and 3 times more likely to be awarded for school attendance. Arts and music education programs are mandatory in countries that rank consistently among the highest for math and science test scores, like Japan, Hungary, and the Netherlands. Multiple studies have concluded that curricular and extracurricular art studies and activities help keep high-risk dropout students in school. There's truly too many benefits of full-time art. There's a plethora of information to read. Please consider a full-time art program within the Guilford Public Schools.
Could we just have your name?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
Thank you.
Christy Stoddard. I'm at 64 Elizabeth Street.
Thank you.
Surely there's someone else who'd like to come and speak. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Valerie Ferrucci. I'm at 1595 Little Meadow Road in Guilford. I have 2 children, one at Guilford Lakes in 3rd grade and also a preschooler. I came today in support of late start times for high school, and I fully support that. I did not know that the full-time art was also being addressed, because that is also a concern of mine. I have no speech prepared, so I apologize, but I didn't anticipate speaking about this. I volunteered a decent amount in the art room with Miss Galehouse at Lakes, and she is an amazing art teacher. The fact, actually being in there and seeing her lessons and how she does things there's a lot behind it. It's, you can see what your kids bring home, but you don't know what she's teaching in the classroom is really amazing. And she almost always needs volunteer help because there's no time in between classes. The kids have to clean up the table. The younger kids have, I believe, half an hour. Yeah. So she goes over her lesson plan, probably has to, deal with some disciplinary issues, who has to go to the bathroom, who needs a Band-Aid. They may have 5 minutes to start that art project. That's the reality. I've seen it. And then it's time to clean up because they have to clean the tables because there's no time. If anyone even just went in and witnessed, they would see that it's really necessary in our town. And I fully agree with that as well. Thank you.
About the start time, since you have elementary school kids, and we hear a lot from older parents often. When we started to research different ideas to potentially shift start times, 2 of the ideas, one would be to flip-flop elementary school and the high school, and the other, I think we had 3 ultimately, but the other was to push the whole thing down further. So as a parent of elementary school kids, could you see your elementary school kids going to school for 8 o'clock in the morning, or could you see them coming home well after 4 o'clock? Are either of those better or worse?
I don't want to speak for everyone here. I haven't.
I don't mean to put you on the
No.
spot. You don't have to answer me.
Honestly, and I was just talking to a father in the hallway, the elementary school kids are up early. Mm-hmm. They're up really early. I mean, we have like a lot of time. So, go to school.
Right, I'm asking because we heard some comments from people that were perhaps in favor of making the change. And some of the comments were, well, I might need my older children at home to meet my younger students when they get home. So I was just curious from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, with this and any issue, I don't think you're ever going, and just like with the kindergarten, right? You're never going to make everybody happy. Everyone's going to have different, opinions about everything and what works for them and what doesn't. But it doesn't mean that we don't need a change, right?
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the
No,
spot.
no, no.
I was
I'm
curious.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Silva from 407 Schoolside Lane, and I'm also here to speak in support of the delayed start. I actually just wanted to come up now a little bit in response to what you just brought up. I'm the parent whose kids actually now finally sleep till 7:30, but I would actually shift our schedule, you know, if there were such a flip-flop. Again, I'm not speaking on behalf of everybody, but I feel like so many of my friends have said the same thing, that their kids are waking them up at, 5:30, 6 in the morning, so what are they waiting for, I feel also in terms of the childcare issue, that's going to be a trade-off. There will be people who no longer have to send their elementary kids to before care, or, if it were to be done in such a way, I think anything is going to wind up being a trade-off. I also think, one of the issues that's been brought up is the sports. I think the sports are really important, but I also think as more districts adopt later start times for high school, I think we're going to see that shift back too. So yes, I'm in support of later start times. Thank you.
Good evening, Sarah Kellogg from 335 Boston Street. Well, I'm in favor of later start times. I'm here to ask your consideration for the special ed budget. We have 2 children in the Guilford School District. Our oldest is an 8th grader here at Adams. He has special needs of various sorts. And our youngest is a strong student at Baldwin Middle School. Over the years, Gus and I have been involved in several budget meetings and watching the process from afar as well as closer. And our experience has been that an easy place to cut is the paraeducators. And over the last 10, 11 years that we've been recipients of the special education system here in Guilford, we've been very pleased, and a large part of that is due to our support from the paraeducators. We are very fortunate in Guilford to have an incredibly well-educated bunch. They are very devoted to our children. And, coming into it, I had kind of the old-fashioned view, like, oh, they're just aides for the teachers, and maybe they hang out in case they're needed, or they make copies of things that the teachers might want. But what I've observed in my visits to the school and on field trips and volunteering in the school is that they are so much more. And again, our own experience, we get notes almost every day from our para, which is not required, but she lets us know if he's had a good day or a bad day, because he can't always express himself, and share those things with us. And that has provided a lot of connection for us as parents, as well as a lot of comfort in knowing he's getting not only what he needs, but what will really help him thrive. So we know it's often a numbers game and this and that, but we just ask that you understand these supports are so vital, not only to our kids with special needs, but also the typical kids in the classroom who are trying to learn if there are behavioral outbursts or sensory issues going on. A lot of these paras pick up even before the other kids notice there's anything going on, and they help to let the lesson carry on. They also help in academics. I just visited the other day and we went to health class, and for my son, the concept of an eating disorder is, out there with physics. But his para sat next to him and asked him to make a list of healthy foods. She really made it relevant for him in a different way, but that way he could still be in the classroom. And so again, these are some of the considerations that I want you to think about when you're looking at the numbers. Finally, I've also seen paras assist with toileting needs at times when the school nurse will refuse to. I'm a nurse. I don't think I would ever refuse to, but that's not necessarily in their job description. I don't really know. But again, there's a lot expected of these folks. And we are bringing more and more of our students back, some with very intense physical, behavioral needs. We need supports. If we're going to keep the level of instruction in our typical classroom, we need supports. So that's my plug. Thank you for listening and all that you do. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them off camera, because I feel my face getting hot.
Hello, my name's Michael Dean. I'm at 909 Beaverhead Road. Yeah. Yes, that's right. I know. That's your parents' house. I get it. First of all, I am here in support of the later start times. I think it's very important. Science supports it. It's a no-brainer. That said, I'd also like to support what she said earlier. I have 2 children in the school district. We moved here just over a year ago, specifically for your school and its support of special education. My daughter has dyslexia. You may or may not know this, not all states actually recognize that as a special need. I know I'm as shocked as everyone else in this room. I came from a state that didn't. So we came here specifically for this. I can't tell you the difference it's made in my daughter's life and our family's life. And I really hope that you continue that, and also later start times, all right? Thank you very much. I appreciate your attention, and keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Was it Kristen? Christy, I'm sorry.
Close enough, whatever.
I think we're all nervous when we get up here. Good evening, I'm Donald Koch. I live at 9 Garrison Drive. I have 2 daughters in the Guilford Schools District. I'm here as a proponent of the Start School Later initiative. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm going to read from the Connecticut Interscholastic Manual, sure. The Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference Handbook for 2017-18, because I like sports. In section 10, they have some policy statements. This will be policy statement number 10 regarding school start times. The CIAC believes that high school students should have the opportunity to learn in an optimum learning environment. While some students succeed academically within the existing and traditional school day, research shows that switching to later school start times does create a more optimal learning environment and improve student achievement for high school athletes. High school sports and extracurricular activities have been perceived barriers to later school start times. It is the position of the CIAC that sports are an extremely important component of a high school student's education. However, interscholastic athletic activities can continue to be offered with appropriate accommodations within any reasonable school day structure. The greatest impact on sports will be within the late fall sports season when daylight savings time ends. However, early school dismissal for fall sports teams may well be a reasonable accommodation and compromise for the benefit of more sustained learning opportunities over the duration of a full year. The CIAC will continue to offer student athletes the same opportunities for sports participation as it has historically done, regardless of individual school district decisions on school starting times. Further, it will strive to schedule its state tournaments in ways which will not interfere with classroom instruction. While it is not always possible to achieve, it is a goal of the CIAC Board of Control to schedule its activities so as to not interfere with student time on task. The CIAC believes that member schools should continue to promote their activities in a manner which will support sound efforts
to enhance optimum learning opportunities. To do less would be to elevate high school athletics to an importance greater than that which is its true purpose. The CIAC believes that decisions that it will advance excellence in interscholastic athletics and academics can be achieved without the exclusion of one for the other. Therefore, it is my request that the Board of Education prioritize the School Start Later initiative for the coming 2018-19 budget year. Thank you all for your time.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Stein. I live at 1311 Little Meadow Road, and I am also here in support of the Late Start Initiative, but I have a little something written for the full-time art position as well. Art is a much needed and important outlet for expression, creativity, and emotion. It gives children the opportunity to explore and to communicate. It teaches history, cultural awareness, and compassion. Art helps our children expand their minds and use their imaginations. I wholeheartedly believe that the inclusion of fine art, as well as music and foreign language in our schools, provides a much-needed balance in our children's mental, behavioral, and academic development. We owe it to our children to provide them with a well-rounded education, and that means offering them art on a full-time basis. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Coming up because I can't take my son elbowing me to get up and talk any longer. I'm Lorna Steele. I live at 112 Manor Road. I'm here specifically to support later start times for our high school students. Although I appreciate what everyone has said. What you said, Dr. Michaels, rang a bell with me because later high school start times have actually been shown to improve performance in some school districts to the point of decreasing class size by 1/3, or by replacing the instructor, the teacher, from an average teacher at the 50th percentile of performance to somebody in the 84th percentile of performance, just with adequate sleep for adolescents. So I wanted to let you know that too. Thank you very much for hearing us. Thank you for listening to us today, yesterday, and many previous times before. I appreciate your openness to hearing us out and to working with us in the past and also going forward. I have no lengthy soliloquy tonight. That's it, but I definitely support it strongly for the upcoming academic year. I urge you strongly, please don't push it off for another year. Okay?
Thank you.
Kristen Michael, 261 Duck Rock Road. I'm here in support of a full-time art teacher at the elementary school levels. I have helped in the art room at A.W. Cox for the last 3 years, and they have a wonderful art teacher there. I just feel that she is totally rushed and doesn't have the time that she needs to devote to the students. She needs parents in there to help, and unfortunately, I know a lot of parents don't have time during the day. I'm fortunate enough to have that time, so I'm just here to say, as a Guilford resident, I am in support of a full-time art teacher.
Can you just tell us what the present situation is with art and music in the elementary schools? What's the staffing levels?
Yep, so currently at the elementary schools, we have roughly a part-time, a half-time art teacher and music teacher at each of the elementary schools. That affords students in kindergarten through 4th grade to have approximately one class of art and music per week, and it is generally of 30 or 40 minutes time, depending on the grade level. You heard our principals speak earlier this week And you heard elementary principals suggest that they would also be in favor of considering an increase in those opportunities. That would be an increase to, say, twice a week of the opportunities that they receive now. Remember, in limited school day, we would need to work carefully with what that meant. So if we were to increase art from half an hour a week to an hour a week, we would need to look at all the other offerings that happen during the week and find where to make those reductions to afford that time.
Brian Wylie, 69 Davis Drive. My prepared notes are in my eyelid somewhere. And I'm going to try not to get too carried away, but this is here in support of, well, everything that's been mentioned, but in particular, earlier start times for some kids. Later for my, I have somebody in grade school and somebody in high school. So yes, there is a quid pro quo. And yes, younger kids do wake up earlier. If that's surprising to anybody, that's okay. It's true. High school kids are not usually up at 5:30 on their own. If you have a rower, that's different. But so my understanding, just backing up a step, since we moved to Guilford 14 or 15 years ago, I've not yet made the effort to fully grasp the role of the school board when it comes to advocacy. My understanding is that it's generally a neutral organization, which I do not understand, but maybe I'm misunderstanding when it comes to budgets and opportunities and needs and so on and so forth. Maybe I'm misunderstanding that. More specifically, with respect to later start times for high school students, it seems that three of the major issues are, and it's an exceptionally complicated issue, no question about that. Three of the major areas seem to be family scheduling, athletic events at the end of the day, and budget for additional bus runs. There may very well be others. Taken very, very briefly in turn, family scheduling already happens anyway. Some people would have a tougher time with flip-flopping later start times for high school students. Some people would have an easier time. It would be hard to do the math and collect the data to show that that's not a zero-sum game. So for all the people who say that they would have a tougher time, bear in mind there are probably, roughly speaking, an equal number of people who would have an easier time of coordinating their schedules. Yes, I'm nervous too, forgetting to breathe. Second point about athletics, and I mentioned this I think a year ago when we were talking about it. I was an athlete a very long time ago and remember that there was always an issue of being tired on the field because we had to get up early, and there have been other issues too, and I think a lot of, there's been talk in the past about kids are fine the way they are from an athletic standpoint. If they're going to perform better academically, chances are they're going to perform better athletically. In other words, if they sleep later, you may have to get to the game a little bit later, you'll practice better, you'll win more. That to me, from an athletic standpoint, not that I am particularly invested in winning teams, I'd rather have the kids have strong character development, but that would seem to be a reason to want to take a courageous leadership role within our athletic conference, which is what we're trying to teach kids on the field anyway, and move start times. I don't know if that made sense or not, but if athletics is an issue, let's just realize that we'll do better and we'll be the leaders and the kids will be healthier and more successful. So some of the other schools may question that, but they should probably read the science as well. Third thing about budgets, to the woman's, I think it was your earlier point about statistics, about improvement in academic performance. That's been shown so many times in so many ways. It's basically, let's say it's another $500,000 in the budget, which is a lot, granted, particularly in these turbulent times. But it's the equivalent of having a probably on average 20 or 30% academically better school system. How is that a question in anybody's mind? $500,000 for the equivalent of X more teachers, Y more better college admissions, all the things that we want out of our schools. Give the kids a chance to sleep and better teams. Thank you.
My name is Stephanie Lim. I'm at 58 Catulo Drive. I have 3 kids, 2 of whom are at Cox, and I'm in support of later start times.
I do exactly the same thing. My name is Lesley Fan. I'm at 174 Wild Rose Avenue, and I have 2 children in the Guilford school system, and I am enthusiastically in support of later start times. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kristen Sayaka, I live at 151 Eastgate Road, and I initially was primarily here for the third graders and helping with the budget for next year, the concerns with the class size. But I'm also here to support the later high school start times. I have a elementary school third grader and a preschooler, and I also would just like to kind of just comment on the mental health perspective of the later start times. I worked as a nurse for probably about 14 years in inpatient psychiatric health with children and adolescents, and I just can't say enough about how crucial sleep is to overall mental health. Like, if one kind of component that is so important is the sleep, if you take that away and that becomes an issue, so many other things just kind of follow suit. So I would like to just advocate for it on that end, and hope that it's highly considered for the next year. Thank you.
Who hasn't had a chance? Oh, good.
I didn't come here at all to talk. I came here with my son who's in Boy Scouts, and we were just going to listen because it was something he was supposed to do. But but I was impressed. I prepped him. I said, hey, he's probably going to hear a lot of petty stuff. Don't worry about that. But I'm totally impressed. So maybe I should come to more of these things that everyone really thinks more about other people than I thought. So I'm impressed about that. So, but there are a lot of things to strike a chord. I just want to bring up a couple of different sort of ideas. So swimming is what kind of excited me as a kid. So we had a pool where I grew up in Pennsylvania. In my high school, and if we didn't have that, I wouldn't have been on the team, and I wouldn't have played water polo in college, and I wouldn't have gotten into Navy SEALs, and wouldn't have done a lot of really cool things. So there's a lot of unintended consequences of opportunities in high school. So and I think there's a lot of unconventional solutions we can think about in some of these areas, because art was something I was not at all interested in at all as a kid either. But it is really important, and everyone who I've seen who's embraced it has been a really probably more interesting person. But I think we can use some different ideas to do that. What I like about Boy Scouts is you have these kids that are 11 years old hanging out with 18-year-olds who are really good role models. And there's no reason to say that you can't have kids doing art at the middle school level, at the high school level, at the grade school level, close to each other, or even all together, maybe helping each other. I don't know, but I'm just thinking that it doesn't have to be, you may not have to hire a whole lot more people. You just may have to think a little bit outside the box. There's a lot we could probably do with technology and just opportunity and the way the swimming thing works. I mean, I'd love it if you want to put in a new pool in the school. That'd be awesome. But obviously you've adapted, with a smaller budget and some really, flexible people. But you could do the same sort of thing, moving people around to other areas with art or, with a lot of other things. So early start, yeah, it's a no-brainer. I got kids. I got 4 kids. I'm from 101 Lynn Drive, by the way. Rich Griner, sorry. So I've got a daughter who's just about to finish Sacred Heart, and 2 boys in the schools here, and now 1 special needs younger kid who's outplaced. So I've seen a lot of different things. But special needs, so when I went for my medical school interview, they said, do you think you might have a learning disorder? I'm like, I think we all do, and I think that's kind of true. A lot of us are more developed in science and math and have no interest in the other stuff, and probably need some help in those other areas. And these paraeducators who I've seen work with some of my kids are amazing resources. And we just can't think of teaching being like one person teaching, 20 people anymore. I mean, everyone learns differently. So I think it really helps to have people who are trained to recognize how other people learn. So, and to adapt that, and to use things like their other skills to help kids go to the bathroom or whatever. That's, I mean, paraeducators are like what I would call a force multiplier. So that's a no-brainer too. But and so my daughter's been looking at colleges, and the colleges like to talk about how adaptable or how you can make your own education. I just think we could have more of that. If we had more electives, more opportunities, then you could people could get more into art. Maybe you could have a swimming elective where you drove people over to the YMCA and they could learn to swim. I mean, in my high school, everyone learned to swim before they graduate, and I think we're pretty close to the water, and it'd be pretty good idea. But anyway, there's a lot you can do and be relatively budget neutral. That's what the rest of the business world has to do. I'm all about increasing money if we have it, but I wouldn't give up on any of these ideas just for money.
Thank you.
Are there board members who've received communications that they might like to share?
Yeah, I've actually received several, so I'll go through what I have. From Sarah Shrewsbury, 400 Drive. She'd like to go on record supporting the effort to find a financially feasible way to allow a later start time to GHS. My brother and I both graduated from GHS in 75 and 78, as did my daughter in 2011. Our family has no more children in the Guilford school system, so I do not have a horse in this race. However, I do think the science bears out that teenagers need more sleep. When they don't get enough sleep, their academics can suffer, and in many cases, their mental health as well. This latter point is one that is near and dear to my heart. We must do whatever we can to protect the mental health of our teenagers. They are under far too much stress. I hope the board will find creative ways to provide fewer buses to GHS students, possibly through bus waivers or other means to make the later start time plan financially feasible. Another letter received was from Katie Dillman. My name is Katie Dillman, and I live at 315 3 Mile Course in Guilford. I have an 11-year-old daughter who attends Baldwin Middle School. I am writing in support of a later start time for Guilford High School. Over the years, I have read about numerous studies showing the negative effects of early start times for high schoolers. This was identified as far back as the late 90s, but schools have been slow to adopt later start times. In schools that have adopted later start times, students report, quote, they have good overall health and were less likely to report being depressed or using caffeine and other substances. For example, alcohol, tobacco, other drugs. Other positive findings include significant reduction in local car crashes, less absenteeism, less tardiness, as well as higher test scores on national achievement tests. And she quotes her source. While changing start times may be inconvenient to some parents, it seems to me that inconvenience is a small price to pay for the mental well-being, potential academic progress, and overall better health for our adolescents and teenagers. I urge you to fight for our children by giving them the best possible chance to succeed in their high school careers and help to come up with a plan to have high school start no earlier than 8:30 a.m. or even later if possible. Sincerely, Katie. I have a note here from Kara Correll. I am emailing you because unfortunately I cannot make the meeting, but wanted to put in my input on a full-time art teacher. I think having a full-time art teacher is so important to our children. My son's favorite class is art. I think Joyce, I believe she's referring to Joyce Galehouse, is phenomenal, and I hope you all will consider this. Thank you for your time. And I think this is the last one. From Mary Onisilla at 229 Mirror Lane, parent of 2nd and 4th graders at Guilford Lakes, as well as a second grade teacher at A.W. Koch School. I'm writing once again to the Guilford Board of Education to encourage them to consider full-time art teachers in all of the town's elementary schools. As an elementary teacher, I see the need for more art education to enrich and diversify education for all students. Many of my students are eager to immerse themselves in the arts, but our core curriculum often overshadows any chance we have to explore the arts within the regular classroom. I'm also not a specialized teacher in this area, and the students are expected, per the Connecticut State Department of Education, to have, quote, substantial and frequent instruction by knowledgeable teachers, end quote. As a mother of a second grader and a fourth grader, both at Guilford Lakes, I recognize the individual needs and interests of my own children and see how they are thirsty for more of the arts, thanks to the instruction that they have each received from Joyce Galehouse. It never ceases to amaze me what they share of the concepts, skills, and rich history that they have learned. Currently, our elementary students receive 30 to 40 minutes of art education per week, depending on the grade level. The recommendations from the Connecticut State Department of Education far exceed these minutes of instruction. Connecticut recommends 60 to 100 minutes per week of art and 60 to 100 minutes of music, as well as 30 to 60 minutes per week of dance and 30 to 60 minutes of theater. The National Opportunity to Learn standard for dance, music, theater, and the visual arts are 90 minutes each. We are extremely lucky at Guilford Lakes and A.W. Cox to have Joyce Galehouse. As a teacher, I see the enthusiasm of my students as they enter her classroom. They arrive excited, and when I pick them up, they are eager to share all that they learned and created. As a mom, I have learned countless new concepts and history related to the arts and seen the interest in my children grow. Their knowledge and skills increase each time they are taught by her. I can only imagine what they could all do if they had the recommended amounts of instructional time. The fact that Joyce Galehouse is able to accomplish what she does in the short amount of time that she has always impresses me. As a colleague, it has been frustrating to watch her cross between schools, servicing 30 classes, over 650 students, and see how she rushes between classes as she receives no downtime in between to prepare for incoming classes or to clean up from previous classes. As a result, the students potentially do not even receive the 30 to 40 minutes that they are provided within their week, and they barely reach the recommendations as stated above. I have had the privilege over the years to teach many talented students who have gone on to the upper grades and reap the benefits of our resources at that level. Many are now enjoying our new state-of-the-art high school that showcases their work. I wonder what more could have come from other children if they had the chance early on to receive the same opportunities. I recognize that in these times, financial considerations must be made, but shortchanging our students in areas that will help the whole child is not fair to the students. I ask the Board of Education to think of ways to include 2 new art teachers in our budget for the sake of the whole child. Thank you. That's it.
Anyone else?
None in addition to what's been read.
Okay. All right.
Hi, Loyola Treasure Riverview Drive. You know I already support what Sarah says because I've said that 1,000 times, and I still do. But I am supporting in the arts piece, and I'd like you to just consider something a little bit different in that if you look at even today's business world, and we talk a lot about teaching our kids how to do teaming and how to do creative thinking and how to do problem solving. And when you go to work today, you are there with people who are doing graphic arts and music and all these other things that are encompassing. When you're building products, if they're engineering, all those pieces come into play. So we can't just look at arts as this great little thing that, oh, it's a fun thing and enhances something else. It's also something that will make them extremely successful in various fields wherever they go. And it is a human equalizer in the community. So I always look at things from, excuse me, I've been here 1,000 times, so I still get nervous. From a special needs perspective, it's an equalizer for all kids. Anybody can be in that room doing what they do best, good, bad, everything is acceptable, and they get to share time and they understand one another, and that's how they team better, and that's how they get successful. So it's not just something that people think as an elective. In my mind, it is something that's critical to them becoming and developing their brains from a right brain, left brain, critical thinking, problem solving component. So I urge you to consider keeping that and starting it and growing it at an earlier age. Thank you.
Hi, Lindsey Gilberto, 121 Bill Rogers Drive. I have a son at Calvin Lead who's in kindergarten, so we're just starting out, and I didn't come prepared to talk. However, I am an art teacher, and I know that 30 minutes a week with these kids is so hard. So I just want to say that I'm in support. My son is loving school, and he comes home every day telling me every single thing he did in all of his specials and in his classroom. But I know, we all know the importance of art, but I just want to go on record as saying how I'm in favor of a full-time art position so that these teachers are able to do what they do so well more effectively.
Hi, my name is Kathy Henderson. I live at 333 Weatherly Trail. I have 3 children in the Guilford school system, 2 elementary, 1 middle. I'd just like to add my voice to supporting later start time for high school students. I'm a clinical psychologist by training, focusing mostly on adolescents, and so I'm very familiar with the mental health issues associated with sleep deprivation, but have spent most of my career in public health, and I wish I could get a public health intervention that had the kind of effect that delaying start times for high school students has on outcomes and on performance. So I really think this is a really good bang for its buck, and considered only that way, but also the mental health. Thank you very much.
Last chance.
The last chance threat got me. I'm Mike Rogers at 233 Corners Road, and we have 2 children in the Guilford Public Schools. One is freshman at the high school, and one is 7th grader here at Adams. I'm here to voice, again, support for the later start times of the high school. Again, I think the research and science is clear, but one thing that no one's really talked about tonight is the 6 a.m. zombie apocalypse that happens with freshmen in high school, at least our freshmen. I speak very anecdotally, but even 35 extra minutes, I think, could make a significant difference. So thanks for your consideration.
Maybe Dr. Freeman, I think since our last meeting, you have at least taken steps to form some kind of a committee or task force on this issue?
I have, and so we've had more interest than I felt we could accommodate in a small group, so I'm pleased to hear that there are other conversations happening outside, but I sent out letters earlier this week inviting 3 members of the community who have shown a significant interest and a significant knowledge base around this topic. 3 of our students from the high school, in fact, this year's representatives to the Board of Education, 3 representatives from within the high school staff, and 3 representatives from this Board of Education. I'm hopeful that everybody invited will be able to make time to attend at least those meetings on a regular basis. And in my invitation, I have asked those members to come to those conversations thinking of 2 tasks. One, and I heard it several times tonight, to help brainstorm around new or previously unexplored ideas. We did float 3 strategies that we thought would be appropriate strategies in the past. People have suggested a price tag that came back with those strategies, so I'm interested to hear people tonight talk about new ideas and possible budget neutral or at least ideas with smaller budgetary impacts. But secondly, to think about helping us to have this conversation on a broader scale. So we've heard the conversation here. I know that people have approached PTOs. I would like to facilitate that group taking the conversation to the high school faculty, to the PTOs, maybe hosting 1 or 2 evening presentations where some local experts can talk about the topic with the community. I think representatives from the athletic community. Last year, we brought in representatives from all of our youth sports organizations when we needed their help in passing a budget. I think having this conversation with those groups and with members of the student body at the high school. And so that was my invitation. That's what I'm looking to do. We hope to have some early conversations that will come at the early part of this year's budget cycle, but I hope to have those conversations continue through the end of the school year. It's also worth noting, because of some of the comments, we have reached out to the superintendents or immediate past superintendents in Greenwich, in Ridgefield, and in Newtown to talk about their recent experiences with this topic as well.
And Newtown was doing this with while they were involved in a superintendent search, which strikes me as maybe not, maybe a little more.
It doesn't have to happen in conjunction with that. Just wanted to.
That's good.
Yeah, didn't know where you were going with that.
We're not saying that they're necessarily coincidental. But and I think we've been told that there are 3 towns that have made this change, and they've done it in 3 very different ways, which I think might be a good idea to just mention. Ridgefield is a somewhat bigger district than Guilford in terms of enrollment, but they have kept 4 waves. Their middle school starts at 7:55 and gets out at 2:45, so that's a 6-hour and 50-minute school day. High school, 8:30 to 3:20. And then they have 2 different waves for elementary school. One starts for 3 schools, 8:50 to 3:40, and then the other one, 9:15 to 4:05 for 3 elementary schools. That's what Ridgefield did. Newtown went to 2 waves. Now, Newtown did this in a kind of, I think if I've read it correctly, has done it in a sort of an interesting way. They used to start at 7:30. They pushed their start time back to 8 for the high school and the middle school. And then they cut their instructional day by 15 minutes, is what it looks like, right? So,
I was trying to figure that
yeah,
out.
I think that's what they did. So they go from 8 to 2:32, so it's 6 hours and 32 minutes, and they were at 6 hours and 50 minutes before, I think. It's something, but they shortened their school day. And then their elementary schools are at 9:05 to 3:37. And then Greenwich flipped, is 8:30 to 3:15 for the high school, 8 to 2:50 for the middle school, and their elementary schools are either 8:15 or 8:45, and they're going to revisit what to do with the elementary schools and whether to change their start times later this year. So there are a lot of alternatives. Obviously there's some advantages and there's some disadvantages to each of them, but at least I'm sure that the committee will look at each of those.
I'm excited to look at new ideas.
So how will people know what's going on with the committee? Do you think at the monthly board meetings you'll have an update or as needed? Or?
I think monthly board meetings, and I think that I would have opportunities to sort of share that information out from through our website and from publications that come out of our office on a regular basis. But I also think, and quite honestly, I was thinking back to a few years ago when we were rolling out Common Core and changes associated with that. Dr. Keene and I very simply went on a road show. And so I think the best way to get the information out is to go to the 4 elementary schools, to go to the neighborhood schools and sit and have the conversation. So certainly updates to the Board of Education, certainly communications going out, but I think people digest the information best when you go to them. Evening presentations I know are difficult, but a formal evening where we talk about start times. We had great success with, she started it recently, talking about female students in the business world and opportunities for them. We've had some really good turnout for evening events that for a while we were struggling to figure out how to get people out of the homes in the evening. So maybe some of those opportunities as well. And then website, we have video on our website rather. Last year around the budget, we had some success with short video clips. I would imagine that I would be able to prevail upon Dr. Canapari and that we could put some video information together that we could host on our website. So those are ideas, but I haven't met with the task force yet, so at this point, those are my unimproved ideas. I'm sure they'll get better when the group sits.
Right, good. Very good. Well, on behalf of the board, thanks to everyone for coming out tonight. It's very.
Mrs. Renner, I'm so sorry.
Oh.
Do you mind if I just say one thing?
Go right ahead.
So I wanted, not to get in a long conversation, but respond to Brian Wylie's question, comment about the board being neutral.
Lack of understanding?
No, I just want to say something quickly because I think it's a little bit, I'm going to tie it to start times. First of all, we're elected officials, so we are elected to represent you. I mean, we're elected to represent the Guilford community. And so many of us have very strong feelings about a lot of the issues that you've brought tonight. We have strong issues about other things. We try to hear what the community is asking for in their school system, and try to make those things happen at the same time as we try to always put kind of the health and safety and academic achievement of our students at the forefront. And finally do all of that, recognizing that the only way we can do any of it is if the town passes our budget every year. So we are not, I certainly hope no one thinks we're a neutral body. I think you've got 9 actually pretty strong-minded people on the board who are trying to do all those things. So one of the things for me, who is an extremely strong advocate of changing start times, is to hear from all of you who have spoken up in support of that. Because 2 years ago, we sat in this very room with 100+ parents and heard such a variety of viewpoints on this. We heard from elementary school parents who begged us not to change school start times. It was hard enough to get her 3 kids out the door by 8:30, 8:45. We heard high school parents and students ask us not to change it for reasons of sports. We heard parents concerned legitimately about the fact that they do have older students who, when they get home, take care of younger students because the parents work. As well as hearing from parents, elementary through high school, who are in support of school start times. So as representatives of the community, I'll speak for myself, but I think some of my colleagues here shared it. We left that meeting going, whoa, like not what we expected. We think this is a good idea, but our community is not standing up behind this in a kind of unanimous way or even close to unanimous way in any way, shape, or form. So it doesn't, I was very frustrated at the time. I think a lot of us were frustrated. We really thought, I mean, I don't think you have to convince any of us of the research. We were very excited about this, but we were not hearing from the people we represent in any kind of consensus way that led us to a particular direction. It doesn't surprise me. I think sometimes things take time to come around, and it sounds like now this is coming around again. So I never answer things in a short way, so my apologies. But that's my answer to that question, and also kind of, I think, an example using start times of what our job is and then how we try to approach issues. If in fact what we hear as we go through this year, as the task force meets, as some of you are meeting in groups elsewhere and gathering energy from the community and communicating your feelings with the community, it may be a different outcome this year. But that's kind of how we function.
If you will permit me to say one thing, this is Mrs. Renner's last meeting on the Board of Education. She is retiring, while the from this board anyway, while the retiring is good, before another budget season. I'm sure you're going to miss that.
Yes, I will.
You're free to come and speak, and watch and help.
Be on that side.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to thank you for your service to the board.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, so again, thanks all to everyone for coming out. And to recap, we heard a lot of parents speaking in favor of delaying the start times for teenagers, and a lot of parents and community members speaking about full-time art in our schools. We also heard from the elite third grade parents hoping to keep the additional teacher in the next grade for next year, and a lot of comments about special education, particularly the role of the paraeducators, and some talk about the swim team. So if I've missed anything, let me know. But very much appreciate your coming out and sharing your input, and please continue to pay attention to what goes on through the rest of the budget process. We have 2 additional hearings like this in January after the budget, the superintendent's budget comes out. So you'll have a chance to get that, look through it and see what's in it, and then come and give us your feedback. And I don't know the dates, but they're in January.
Last week.
January the
Yeah.
22nd and 23rd.
Yep, it's on the website.
Wednesday or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you all. Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
I get to make a motion?
She's got 1 foot